welcome to the next edition of Chopped Greens. I am your host, Philip Amerine, alongside reoccurring guest host, Gary Boucher. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me on.
As always, thank you for coming back. So we had a great opening show last week.
Yes, sir.
And we just even added some new music to this week's show. That is courtesy of Chris Gell, friend of the show. And I hope you guys all liked it. We're always adding stuff to this show. We're always modifying, revolutionizing everything you can, getting bigger and better.
We're an amoeba.
Yes, we are. But now, back when I first approached you about this show, I kind of said, hey, let's just go and review movies that either come out or that have come out. And so this is kind of more in the realm of what we're going to be normally doing, rather than our Oscar show, which was fantastic. Mm-hmm. If you haven't checked it out, go ahead and I don't know why you haven't, but go ahead and
stop
reload
this right now.
Stop, go back, and reload that video. But just to get back, now this is going to be in the mold of what we normally do. We're going to kind of go point by point of what we thought was the best aspects, worst aspects, kind of go back and forth on some things that we disagree on. In case you missed the preview for last show, this week we were focusing on Logan, which opened up this last weekend.
Yes.
It, of course, covers the story of X-Men's Wolverine.
2029.
Yes, and it's in the future, 2029. Yes. And, of course, that is possible because Wolverine is immortal. Mm-hmm. So we're led to believe, which actually leads me to our next point. This is going to be a huge, if not, insinuated spoiler alert. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Cover your ears, children.
Hey, Gary Boucher, knock knock.
Who's there?
Spoiler alert!
Spoiler alert! Who?
Spoiler alert! Don't keep listening to the show if you don't want to know.
Go see Logan. Come back and listen.
Yes, or just skip to the last 30 minutes of the show, and you can listen to a great edition of Give Me 5. I have an Oscar award-winning Give Me 5 this week. Yeah, you better beware.
Oh my God.
It's going to be, we're going deep. It's going to be fun. Okay, let's start out with Logan.
Yes, fantastic movie.
Yes.
Everybody should go see Logan. It is, since The Dark Knight, like the most not only revolutionary but stylized and not superhero movie. It's terrific. It'll defy your expectations and fulfill you in other ways that you didn't think a superhero movie could do. It's just not even a superhero movie.
That is absolutely fascinating, Gary. Yes. That was my initial thought. One of my little notes jogged down here. I thought it was Fox's answer to The Dark Knight, where it's that kind of dark reality where it kind of humanizes and makes a superhero element somewhat realistic, even though it's suspension of disbelief, where nobody's really coming around with.
There's no mutants in the Old West, but they did it perfect.
But they made it realistic.
Yeah.
And I think that brings us to the introduction.
Yeah.
Where Logan is in the back of a Chrysler limo.
Yes. And
jumping around, and I thought that it was one of the best openings I've seen in a movie, just in general.
It shocked me. I was not prepared for how brutal this movie was going to be. Like, brutal. Don't take your kids to see Logan.
No,
please don't. Just do yourself a favor.
But I brutal, gory, but also I thought that there was a lot of subliminal messaging and a lot of narration without narration.
Yeah.
It sets you up to let you know that it does a pan after the fight scene ensues of a Texas license plate. So it lets you know that it's in Texas. Yeah. I mean, it's small little detail stuff like that I really appreciate.
They're in the middle of nowhere.
Without somebody, killing you with narration of back in Texas.
Nope, that's what it is. It's exposition without just having two characters talk. It's all visual, and it's freaking great.
And you know what? In case you didn't know the Wolverine story, if you just see the movie title Logan, you don't necessarily. No. I mean, if you have no wherewithal or bearings of the X-Men franchise, and you're just going to go see a movie just straightforward, I thought that it gave a lot of backstory as well within the opening moments.
You could go see it as a standalone, and you would be perfectly fulfilled because they don't bring in any crazy X-Men lore or anything.
There's a lot of innuendos and very much hey, this is a wink, wink, nod to the audience.
It's not like those Marvel movies where you can't watch them 8 movies in because you're like, what is going on?
What is going on?
Yeah, Logan, perfectly fine watching it by itself. If you've never seen an X-Men movie, maybe you start off with Logan.
Yeah, I think, and it is somewhat of a standalone movie. I think that you could watch this and go back. It
doesn't. I mean,
it doesn't make it to where it's impossible to go back and see, like kind of how we discussed with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I know the ending, so it kind of ruins that journey for me.
Yeah.
This, I think, can stand alone because it's so separated from the rest of the X-Men world that Fox and Universal Studios, has created. And going back to where we were in the beginning, I think that it shows you that he's an alcoholic by like him being in a bunch of. I mean, they kind of hit you over the head with that, with all the empty booze bottles and him just constantly waking up from a hangover of some sort. But when we open it up and he's fighting those gangsters, I mean, I don't think. I mean, you expect a lot of fighting, but he
was decapitating.
He decapitated people.
I was like, oh my god.
Later on in the movie, I mean, he just like puts a fist underneath the chin,
through his chin, like, sticking out through the guy's head.
You see an eyeball fly everywhere.
The action scenes are super beautifully and really skillfully choreographed, and they're freaking like we know that Logan is like a giant rage monster. But holy cow!
I thought that actually makeup and hair for this particular movie was fantastic.
Oh my god! They did making Hugh Jackman look like a freaking 60-year-old alcoholic.
Yeah, I thought he was totally viable as that, and especially with all that blood. Like I think that's a nuanced thing to where he's in a white beater, especially. So I mean, you're having to work with a lot of excuse me, a lot of dye packs and a lot of specialized materials that are very hard to accommodate and keep up with, because I mean they're in these costumes for a long time, and I thought that whoever was behind that was really excellent in bringing that home, but flipping that around, I didn't think that the graphics were all that up to par along.
Really?
I mean, sometimes it was there, and other times it wasn't. I liked the sound editing, like with all the shing, you know, that was fantastic.
Every 2 seconds,
right,
slicing through people.
But I didn't think that, the heads rolling off were all that believable. I mean, when his daughter, Laura, is holding like that little head. Spoiler alert. Yes, I know. Really, I think that
It's pretty obvious, though.
Yeah, let's
figure that out.
Spoiler alert, this whole movie is going to be, we're going to decapitate it and go and investigate through it like a biochem thing. So really, again, if you haven't seen it and you're holding off, I know myself, I don't like to be spoiled.
Yes.
So go and see it and then come back for some in-depth discussion. Speaking of which, when Laura goes in and fights the bad guys
and walks out with the head and just dumps it at their feet,
dumps it at them, I think that sends a message in and of itself. You realize that this is not an ordinary child. This is a killing machine who has been mentally taught how to kill, and I think that this whole movie is filled with that, and it's great that it was able to accomplish that. Kind of moving on, Laura, Wolverine, Professor X, they were all there. And I thought that they were all astounding. Like especially Laura coming out of nowhere, because we're kind of used to Hugh Jackman at this point.
Never seen her before. She rocked it.
And you know what? I think that's because she was silent.
It was all visual. She was, besides like her demonic banshee screams. She had no actual dialogue until like the tail end of the third act, and she gave this beautiful monologue to end the film, but in general she didn't say anything. It was all visual, and she and Hugh Jackman had terrific chemistry. They were so fun to watch, like in those intimate scenes in between those really brutal battle scenes, just her and him and Patrick Stewart in the car. I love those almost better than the action scenes because they were so watchable.
Yes, I wonder, makes me think aloud and ask, is it better? Because I know a lot of the times whenever I see a story on film, that a child actor, like if you write it, a child can do whatever you want, but on film it just doesn't translate as well. The children just don't act as well. I mean, they just don't have that much experience.
It's hard. I mean, this girl is like 11, I think, maybe 11 or 12.
Yeah.
Really, she hasn't really done any other big films, And that also, I mean, it has as much to do with the director as it does with her being able to be patient and work with kids on screen. Also, Hugh Jackman, probably an excellent screen partner. I would love to work with him.
Oh, well, yeah. I think we can all say that we would love to work with Hugh Jackman. But somebody who I wouldn't want to work with is Richard Grant. Do you know who that is? That is the Dr. Rice character. He's one of the villains.
Was he the gangstery guy, or was he the guy who was the head of the whole?
No, he was the head. He was the head doctor.
Yeah, he was.
There was him. Speaking of the villains,
Yeah.
there was Dr. Rice, Richard Grant. The actor is Richard Grant. There was Pierce, who is Boyd Holbrook. For those of you who've seen Narcos, he's the main detective in Narcos. That's because I knew I'd seen him somewhere. Then there's X-24, which is the Logan clone, which of course is Hugh Jackman.
That was
a surprise.
Threw me off. I was what?
I know it was really jarring.
Yeah. So Logan has these crazy battles, basically with Logan, because they made a clone of him, and he's like their engineered weapon to go kill Logan. And those scenes where he's fighting himself and they're just going ham on each other, that was insane.
That was because it creates a back and forth concept that you just can't look away from.
So interesting to watch Logan and Logan screaming at each other.
Right. Just battle back and forth.
Yeah.
But you were saying earlier that you thought that the villains were weak in this movie.
Yeah.
Explain yourself.
I think that great superhero movies have to have not only like great evil villains, but the best ones are the villains that have some sort of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the reason why low-key lifted up the Avengers movie. Even Heath Ledger didn't have relatable humanity, but there's something off, and he wasn't just... I felt like the villains in this movie were perfectly diabolical and mean and skilled and nefarious, but then when it came down to it, they were kind of one note. They were just like the evil guys who were out to kill Logan and his buddies, and there wasn't really any depth or relationship past that.
Interesting. I think you're right on all those notes as far as Dr. Rice. I'll give you that.
Whereas
because I absolutely adored his performance.
And then in The Dark Knight, which I really want to compare this movie to, I feel like they're almost on the same level. The Joker and Batman have this really almost intimate relationship. Batman's almost closer to the Joker than he is with anybody because the Joker's always got his number. This wasn't like that. These guys were just bad dudes. That's all it was.
And given your point about, because I just watched that this week, I noticed that within each story that he tells about his scars, I'm talking about the Joker now, of course, he gives it a sort of humanistic, made-up story. Either one of the three is made up or whatever, but he gives three different versions, all of which are equally scarring and humanistic, like you said, where you could see somebody going crazy off of them, and you don't know whether he makes that up or what have you. Going back to Logan, I can agree with you on Dr. Rice. I felt like that was a lost opportunity. I don't know if that was
kind of like
wrong.
The evil scientist guy. I was like, I get it, but he's not great.
He had some funny moments, I guess, but I didn't feel like they were warranted or deserved. No. They were just written very well. Yeah. But I wholeheartedly disagree with you on Pierce.
The other guy? Yeah.
I really liked his performance because...
His performance was pretty good. I'm saying, like, the character himself wasn't my favorite, but I will concede with you on the performance part. For sure.
Right, because I think that he fulfilled that need of a one-note villain. I think that he was kind of limited in what he did, but I actually really enjoyed like that opening setup of where he steps in and he kind of has that know-it-all presence where he's one step ahead of the hero.
The actor did great in the sense that he walks in and you hate this guy. You want Logan to chop his head off right now. You're like, oh my god, I hate you.
Yes, I agree.
I get that.
He totally fulfills that role, and you do have this urge to where you hate him. And as an actor, you can't ask for anything more than to emote an emotion from the audience and the audience members watching you.
That's true. I feel like maybe with the scientist, they were trying to get that vibe of like a more relatable,
like a sinister kind of thing, like an evil
it
genius.
Didn't go over that well, and they had these scenes with him where he was like kind of playing good cop, and he was trying to like talk to like Logan and Laura, but it didn't go over as well as it could.
No, it was he was very weak, and that was. Out of all the things in the story, I almost directly blame him for the sour note in the middle. Mm-hmm. We both agreed that the beginning was excellent.
Yes, shoots off. It's incredible.
I think it starts off in an excellent tone. It sets the tone, lets you know where you are. I think it starts off at a perfect 9, 10. Wherever you want to go, I'm fine going there with you.
The beginning of that movie is perfect because it can start off a third act, or a first act, or first of 3 acts. Yeah. But
I think it loses steam somewhere after the point where they discover Laura and they're driving away and they're getting away in the desert.
Really?
I think right after there it has a steep decrescendo and it slowly goes down to a point where I don't enjoy it anymore.
Really? I would say I agree with you in the sense that there's a tone shift where it goes from this crazy action movie to like a slower, character-y, like Western road tripping movie. But I really enjoyed the second act of the film. It's a lot different. It's a lot more drawn out. There's a lot more exposition. My low point actually was the third act up until the climax.
Wow.
Just because once Logan wakes up at that camp for all the mutant kids,
right?
These kids show up on screen, and I didn't really care about their characters, and because I mean the whole thing is Logan and Laura the whole time, and then he shows up and they tried, they got these kids with these powers, and they tried to like throw them in and make them a big part of the story right at the end. And for me, it didn't blow over that well.
It almost resembles Children of the Corn kind of thing at the end, like especially with the ending with Pierce's death, like where they all kind of like just converge together to focus on him. I thought it was a real lackluster death as far as villain deaths go.
But then right after that, the final fight between Logan and X-23,
X-24, Laura's 23.
Yeah, between Logan and X-24, that was incredible. I loved it. And then the whole resolution of the movie was great. But that first part of the third act, I was like, oh, this.
So we agree where the third act kind of really starts, but I disagree with you in that it's lackluster. I think that's where it actually picks back up, to be honest with you. Up until that point, like, the only time it kind of gets like another spike back is when X-24, the Logan clone, kills Dr. X. Or Professor X, excuse me. That
tore like my soul out of my body. That was so... I was crying.
It has like a bleep. It goes back up, like a heartbeat. But then it goes back down again. It's like, it's very boring. Like, I was kind of like... I was interested. I was invested in the story.
The whole movie is like a 15-minute absolutely brutal slasher fight scene, and then like a half hour of
it's slowly dripping
the road
down,
tripping and the character, and then it goes back up really quick, and then it slows down.
And the only time it really sustains that excellence is in the beginning to that point where they leave in the desert.
The first act is definitely probably the strongest, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd probably order your acts first act best, then 3, then 2.
Correct.
I would go 1, then 2, then 3.
Because I think that past that point, like you said, when he wakes up and we now see that they're following them. Yeah. Past that, I think it does nothing but climb up again, and it, again, like I said, Children of the Corn. It was really creepy. It was like, why are they all focusing just on a logical standpoint? Why were they not helping him defeat the other clone? Like, especially if you have freezing powers, gravitational powers.
These kids were like really good with their powers. Yeah. They were knocking out bad guys left and right. You got like 12 mutants and one Logan who only has really one power. You can take him out real quick.
I can understand the kids running away who like aren't regenerative. Yeah. Like who aren't Laura and Logan, and like any bullet can't take them out. Yeah. But once all the other baddies are taken care of,
there's just one left. Like,
why aren't they converging to help out the guy who's no longer immortal, who's like gonna die? Maybe they don't know that, but even then, that cop-out's not there because they were giving him the antidote. Yes. The whole beginning of the third act, I just didn't buy that aspect of it. So in that essence, that's where it kind of dropped off. And that's why we give The Dark Knight so much credit, is it never drops off. No. But it drops off in reality, and it kind of becomes that, why are you doing this for no other reason than you're doing it because you were told to? Yeah. It drops off in believability.
All those kids come in, and they're all super one note, and I'm not blaming the actors, but the characters themselves.
Well, we can kind of blame actors. I mean, they're children actors. We're going back there.
They're under 18, so I'm going to cut them a little bit of slack. But they come on screen and they're thrown on there really fast, and they try to make them a really integral part of the story, and I couldn't buy it. I could buy Logan and Laura. I couldn't buy like these 12 mutant kids. I wasn't super into that. That's why I liked the second act so much, was because, like I said, all those scenes with the three of them were, one, funny, and two, very intimate, and not superhero movie at all. More like a kind of almost like No Country for Old Men kind of vibe. And I could totally do that.
You know, the quote that really symbolized that element for me, where their connection was kind of really symbolized and brought to life, was Logan saying, "Bad shit happens to people I care about." Laura replies, then I'll be fine. I thought that.
Oh my God. And then she walks away.
She walks away, and it just and it lingers. That emotional statement just lingers, and you can see the pain on Logan's face, on Hugh Jackman's face. Yeah. And I think that that's really, for me at least, what brought the third act up, because it brings back that emotional, in-depth emotion that you can feel in the first act. Like, you can see why he's motivated to do all these things, why he's motivated to go from point A to point B. I think it loses that a little bit in the middle, which is why I give it the weakest. Granted, once he comes back to the casino, that was fully intense. Fully intense moment of stasis where
it lasted for like 5 minutes. Him just like doing slow mo through the whole hotel.
Resembles Wolf of Wall Street, where he's on the lemon
and the whole drug scene. Yeah,
I couldn't get that image out of my head.
I didn't think about that, but now totally.
Because think about it, that's actually really good acting on everybody else's part too, because they're all like in a paralyzed motion, and then he's just like slowly creeping forward.
And then I know the slow motion of him just quickly stabbing everyone in the head and saving Charles and Laura. That was
correct.
Yeah, and it just built and built and built and built. So if you didn't know, Professor X, he's obviously got the most powerful brain in the world in the X-Men universe, but he's got some kind of degenerative brain disease in the movie. He's got like Alzheimer's, so he has these like seizures or attacks or something, and it causes his brain to like go haywire, and it makes everything kind of go slow motion, and everyone kind of gets stuck in this limbo. And Logan kind of trudges through in slow motion, like pumping through this whole hotel, and he like slow-mo kills everyone. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And I think that was an incredible script writing ploy where they give the person with the most powerful brain powers
a degenerative brain disease. That was great, and it's totally believable. I mean, it's 2029. He's old as heck. You know, he's on the deathbed the whole movie. He can't remember anything. He's like a grandpa the whole time.
Right. Now come along with me on this one. Logan, I think, accomplishes something that Superman in the Superman movies never really have ever captured. I think that within the movie, when you're working with an immortal character, I just don't think it works. And we've seen in Superman movies past where either they try to humanize him with the one weakness, and I think that's why it fails so often, is that kryptonite is literally the only weakness he has. So they then move on to Lois Lane, and then all this other stuff. But it's really just those two. It's really only two notes. What Logan accomplishes is that it humanizes Logan to where now we kind of just think of him as another person.
Yeah, the whole time Hugh Jackman has put on a beautifully realistic performance of Logan. And the problem with Superman is he was made in a time when America had to be number one, and so he was made pretty much invincible because he was the symbol of our total dominance. And I know that DC has tried really hard to move past that and make him more relatable, but it never goes over that well. And technically, Logan is invincible, but they've always found a way to make him probably like one of the most relatable and down-to-earth superheroes around. And that's what they did.
That's what they did. And especially with him dying, I think him and Professor X dying, I think that it was really just because one happens, you don't expect the other to happen, and you always expect them to leave a little wiggle room for themselves. And actually, I do think that they did do that. With it set in the future. They can move backwards since the timeline of X-Men Days of Future Past is in the present 70s, somewhat in our 2018 17 world. And they purposefully set it in 2029. They do have some wiggle room to bring him back in if he ever does want to do the role again. I think that when they make him mortal and where he's declining, I think we just see him as a person with above abilities who's flawed now, and he's just become human. And I think
he's a freaking drunk, pill-popping, like, taxi driver in Mexico.
We can all relate to that. I mean, not me. I'm not a drunk, pill-popping alcoholic, but we all can have some human element attached to that. We can all be like, oh my goodness, he can take a couple bullets.
But all of his friends are dead. His mentor, he's like his primary caretaker. He's got nobody left. Like you said, shit things happen to everybody who I love, and he's got nothing, and he's like a defeated man, and the story makes it really, really compelling when they concentrate around that. Whereas, you get stories like Batman versus Superman and
Fantastic Four
trying to do the same thing. It just doesn't.
It just doesn't accomplish it, because I think when you can empathize with the character,
Yes.
and you do see that they're vulnerable,
Yeah.
that they can be taken down, and that they're still being a martyr for something, that they're being
Yes.
sacrificial, and they're sacrificing themselves or their abilities or their bodies, whatever.
Taken down brutally by being slammed onto a log with a branch plowing through his chest. Like, oh my god.
You feel it. I mean, and you
Yeah.
you get that. You know that it's coming too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
really just like it's just one of those moments where you see the car crash coming, but you
Mhm.
can't do anything to stop it.
Mhm.
That's what happens on screen. You see it coming, and you're like,
Yeah.
just run, and it doesn't happen. And I think
Yeah.
that's really where Logan out Superman.
Yes.
Do you think that this deserves any Oscar nods? I mean, we saw Suicide Squad obviously
Yeah.
win,
Oh
and
my God.
that's fine. But I more so than not, why do you think that big box office hits that I'm assuming that Logan's going to kind of be?
Yes, for sure.
To me, this works more so than a superhero film. I don't think that can be pigeonholed as just a superhero film. I think that this works.
No, it's not. It's almost like a superhero set in a western. It's pretty much a western
I
populated.
got a real
with
Mad
with
Max
effects
feel
film.
for this.
Oh yeah, it was like
Yeah.
a slower pace. Like this post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, it had a
Old West
real
setting.
I mean, I don't know if you've read the comic books for Old Man Logan, but it definitely it resembled it very much to as
Yeah.
much as they could. Like the Old Man
Yeah.
Logan comics revolve around an old Wolverine living in a post-apocalyptic world on planet Hulk. Hulk
Yeah.
is the last superhero along Wolverine, and they're just living together. And obviously they couldn't accomplish that, so they did
Yeah.
a very in reference of, and I thought that it pulled that off very nicely.
I was thinking as far as Oscar nominations go,
Right.
as I was watching, and I was like, this is honestly good enough to probably be on par with like a lot of the Best Picture nominees, and it's crazy because most action or sci-fi, fantasy, superhero movies hardly ever get nominated for big Oscars like that. I'm assuming it'll get a lot of technical nominations as they always do, but I think it'd be a really, really big step. I'm going to geek out a little bit here.
Right. Go ahead.
Lord of the Rings winning Best Picture.
Oh.
For fantasy films, that was huge. Fantasy films, that never happens. Sci-fi films, that never happens. I'm saying...
Well, now Star
this
Trek
would
is
be-
kind of has taken on that role.
And
That's for sure.
This could be like... It's already like up there with The Dark Knight, like one of those prestigious and real
Right.
superhero movies.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it kind of is a dark horse for like a Best Picture nomination next year. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
I could see Patrick Stewart winning for Best Supporting
Best
Actor.
Supporting Actor.
Hugh
Yeah.
Jackman, I could see where they take him away because he's kind of only playing two emotions. Granted, he plays them well.
Yes.
It's anger and sulking almost,
Yes.
but it's not to the point of like Superman where
Yeah.
the whole movie he's just sulking and he says fewer words.
Yeah.
Fun fact! Did you know that Spider-Man in the new Avengers movie, in Civil War,
Yeah.
he said more lines than Superman did all Batman versus Superman?
Are you serious?
Dead serious.
Oh my, that actually doesn't surprise me at all.
Doesn't surprise me at all because
Batman
that
vs.
was
Superman
awful.
was trash, and Henry Cavill is not a good Superman.
So going back to an actually great movie,
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you, Gary Boucher, how many Boucher bars would you give Logan?
Out of 100.
Yes. Let's
Out
go
of
Rotten
VMAX,
Tomato style. How
many
out of
Boucher
1 out of
bars?
100
I
would you rate Logan?
I'm gonna set Logan. I'm gonna.
1 being the worst, 100 being the best film ever. However you rate it.
It's up. I would throw it. It's not a perfect movie.
No, it's
By any
has
means
its
not a
flaws.
perfect movie, but it is an excellent movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's necessary. It's unique. It's timely. At a time when Marvel is making great movies, but they're very comic booky and,
Right.
and very fun.
This reaches beyond the superhero fan base.
This is it's unlike any movie I've ever seen because of its combination of subject matter with setting and tone. I'm gonna clock it in at like a 91.
Whoa.
It's like a 9 out of 10 movie for me. I thought it was that good. I really
Okay.
did.
Okay.
How many
Yeah.
Amerine Astros?
Ooh, Amerine Astros. I'm gonna go with 85.
85.
I give it a little wiggle room
Yeah.
either way. You could persuade me, but really I settled on 85
Yes.
only because there was a lull for me.
Yes.
It did have spikes, so it kept my interest. It
Yeah.
wasn't like unbearable and then it got good again.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think that with some of the special effects going down, I felt even though the story was excellent in the beginning, and it ended as well as a movie could, I think, in that setting and what it built up, I thought it ended pretty well. Like, you saw it coming, but you still, it was justifiably done. I think I have to go around 85. 9 out of 10 is a little too much for me. I'm being nitpicky, of course, but definitely. I think this is a movie that far exceeded expectations for me.
Oh, for sure.
And I think anybody who goes to see it will not be disappointed. I think I could take my mom, my grandma to go see this, and they'd
be shocked, but they'd be like, wow, that was really
I think it was, they wouldn't be walking out of the theater. I think that they would really enjoy it.
The thing is, so the first time I watched No Country for Old Men, which is a movie that this really reminded me of, I didn't even really love it, but it's a movie that every time I watch it, I find something new to love about it, and it's always watchable. I could see this becoming one of those movies where I can watch it and watch it and watch it, and it's never going to get old. You know, I think once it comes out and I give it a few more viewings, I think I'm really going to never stop enjoying it, and that's why I think I'm going to put it so high.
There was a lot, like I said, with the subliminal messaging. I'm sure that there's much more that I just didn't catch in my one viewing of it. Once it comes out to DVD, I'm sure that I'll catch a couple more glances of it, see if I can see anything. And it's not like I don't think it was an action movie where it's just like once you've seen it, it's done.
You don't need to see it again, because there's lots of excellent movies where the first time you watch them,
excellent acting all around outside of Dr. Rice. Richard Grant, I'm sorry I'm bagging on you. In case you hear this little Chopped Greens podcast.
We don't hate you, but come on, man.
But you could have done a little bit. All right. So on the other side of this next new music segment, we're going to do another Give Me 5. All right. And I am ready to win and Give Me 5. How about you, Gary?
I'm going to make a comeback from last week. You know, last week was just a warm-up. It was our inaugural podcast, so I was just warming up the chops.
Harry Banana. A big Harry Banana Boucher's coming back. All right. We'll see you on the other side. Right. Nice little music break going on here. It's going to keep on going throughout this whole segment, so I hopefully everybody likes it. But it's pretty good. Again, another shout-out to Chris Gell.
Chris.
Thank you, buddy. All right. Do you mind if I go first this time since you went last time? There really is no advantage to going first on this game.
Well.
All right. Gary Boucher, this past weekend, 4 shelter dogs rescued from slums and abandoned lots around Sao Paulo, Brazil, were trained as ball dogs for an exhibition tennis match at the Brazil Open. I want you to tell me, is this a good idea or a bad idea to have ball dogs at a golfing tournament?
Wait, tennis or golf, did you say?
No, I'm sorry, tennis.
Tennis. I think that's excellent. One, have you seen the video of the kid who, Rafael Nadal, does a crazy serve and hits him right in the gonads?
Yeah.
That's a liability.
That's
right. Yeah. You plays that kid with a dog. One, it ups the cute factor. People are going to want to watch these cute little German shepherds go in and retrieve the tennis balls. I think it's eliminating the liability of hitting young kids in balls. And like I said, it's a cute factor. People are going to have fun watching dogs retrieve. As long as nothing goes terribly wrong and they don't have some primal urge to kill the tennis players. Which some people might enjoy watching, but I don't think I would.
Gary, you're 100% right on this. Do you know how many people watch the Puppy Bowl? This is a hit. Why have we not thought about this before? I'm actually kind of outraged that we haven't. This is like a match made in heaven.
America's falling behind.
This is a match made in heaven. I don't understand why, if we can train dogs to do so many outside curricular things, why not give the dogs a little fun? Why do we have these ball boys running across and
These kids are getting worn out. These kids are terrified. These dogs are just gonna have a good time.
This is Air Bud in real life, Gary. Oh, this is fantastic. I give this a 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. I love this. Go Brazil. And I'm going to watch next year.
We got dogs detecting bombs, drugs, fighting overseas, fighting in police canine units. Why can't we have tennis dogs?
Yes, go Poochie. All right. Gary, your first question.
So this is a kind of a would you rather question.
Okay.
I know that you were a 90s and a 2000s kid, so this might be close to your heart.
Excellent.
You got to give me your honest pick and why. Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network?
Ooh, well, I would have to say, this is splitting hairs here. Yes. But if I have to choose, I'd have to say Nickelodeon has aged rather well.
Yes,
I mean, they still have kept SpongeBob, and
one of the probably arguably the greatest cartoon ever made.
it's the Barney of our generation.
More watchable.
More watchable than Barney, but
you can still enjoy me some SpongeBob.
yeah, maybe the Wiggles of our generation for those of you who love the Wiggles. But with hits like that, and Bear in the Big Blue House was also part of that. Was that Disney?
Bear in the Big Blue House.
Which was that?
Oh, it was. Oh my god. Okay, I believe this.
Okay,
I don't.
While you're doing that, Nickelodeon, just out of the two, I did enjoy Kids Next Door, but I just think Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network kind of has now aged with me, and it's now more of Adult Network, I feel like.
It's really weird. I have two sisters who are 10, and they watch shows like, isn't that Gravity Falls at Cartoon Network?
Yeah.
They've got
Falls,
some really, like,
regular show.
Yeah. It kind of blew me away what Cartoon Network is now.
I know, it's really, it's kind of just aged with me, I felt, whereas Nickelodeon has kind of maintained and stayed in its realm, and I respect that.
I can always watch Fairly Odd Parents. I can always watch
That's
Drake
true.
and Josh,
Did you hear that they're getting a new kid?
Yeah, I saw that. I'm excited.
Yeah.
By the way, Bear in the Big Blue House, Disney.
Okay. Go Bear in the Big Blue House. All right. You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, Gary Boucher. I have troubles with names, so I concocted a game where it's Hugh Jackman, Hugh Grant, or Hugh Hefner. I want you to tell me. I'm going to give you 5 facts. You tell me which Hugh this pertains to, all right?
Hugh Jackman, Hugh Grant, who is the guy from Love Actually.
Yes.
The Prime Minister.
Yes.
Okay.
Hugh Hefner, Playboy of Playboy in Femininity. Look it up. That's an actual word, I hope. Infaminity. All right, first fact. Here we go. This person has appeared on the cover of GQ magazine 3 times: December of '94, October of '98, and November of '02. Is that Hugh Jackman, Hugh Grant, or Hugh Hefner? Hugh Jackman.
Hefner.
That is a big fat 0 for you. You're not starting. It was Hugh Grant.
That was my first guess, but I was like, was he famous in the 90s?
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
I put in the dates especially to throw you off.
I was going to say Hugh Hefner was old as heck even then, but can't be Hugh Grant. Wow.
Starting off strong, Gary. Starting off strong. 0-1. Here we go. Next one. This person worked as a gas station attendant and a birthday party clown. Is that Hugh Jackman, Hugh Grant, or Hugh Hefner?
This is going to get redundant, but I'm going to say Hugh Hefner for this one.
Starting off 0-2, Gary. Big fat hairy banana.
Hugh Jackman?
That was Hugh Jackman.
God, that was I gotta go with my gut feeling.
Go with your gut. I don't know
what's
why
funny?
you're going out
In my mind, I was like, Hugh Jackman's from Australia. They don't have birthday
They don't have clowns in Australia.
Clowns are an exclusively American invention. They don't do that in Australia.
Well, yeah, we don't know when he was a clown. That is not affirmed.
Could have been an American.
Could have been an American clown. We don't know. All right, next fact. Purchased an Andy Warhol painting of Elizabeth Taylor in an auction for just under $4 million, and then later auctioned it off in 2007 for $23.5 million. Is that Hugh Jackman, Hugh Grant, Hugh Hefner?
That's got to be Hugh Hefner.
0-3, Gary. That is Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant is an astute mind.
That was like the most Hugh Hefner fact.
I am excellent at this game. All right. This person, when he was 11 years old, received an award from the Illinois Humane Society for his poem, Be Kind to Dumb Animals. Is that Hugh Jackman, Hugh Grant, Hugh Hefner?
Can't be Hugh Jackman, because when he was 11, he was in Australia.
Okay.
Hugh Grant is British, so logic brings us back to the only American on the list, Hugh Hefner.
Look at that, using the old noggin to get on the board. Hugh Hefner. That's exactly right. All right, last one, Gary. His life goal as a young man was to be an international freelance journalist, even earning a degree in journalism. Is that Hugh Jackman, Hugh Grant, or Hugh Hefner?
Hugh Grant.
Final answer?
Locking it in.
Oh, Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman?
Oh boy.
Am I 20%?
Yeah, journalist.
Am I like Shaq's career 3-point percentage right now?
You're pretty bad. You need to go underhand.
Oh, God.
All right. All right. Bringing it back to you, Gary.
Alrighty. So, I got a true or false for you.
Okay.
It's only one, but it's really weird, and I know you're not really doing this.
Okay.
True or false, I'm going to give you 2 statements, one's true, one's false. You got to tell me which one's which. You've seen District 9.
Okay.
The alien language in District 9 was created by rubbing a pumpkin
Okay.
Other fact. Did you know that Bruce Willis was originally cast as Aragorn?
Ooh, that is tough. Okay, so one of them's true, one of them's false. I have to tell you which one's which.
Yes.
You know what? Bruce Willis, I could see him as a midget. So I'm assuming that Aragorn guy was Aragorn was one of the dwarves, and I could see him as a dwarf. So I'm gonna go. That's the true one.
Are you locking it in?
And pumpkins are the false one. No pumpkins together. What am I doing? Bananas together? Big hairy bananas together to make a dog bark? Heck no, that's false. Bruce Willis is a dwarf. Tell me I'm right.
First, I gotta school you. Aragorn is not a dwarf. He is of the race of man. He was raised by elves. He is probably the tallest person in the film.
Oh my gosh.
And you are false. You are wrong. The
What?
pumpkin fact is true. They created the language of District 9 by rubbing the sides of the pumpkin together. Stuart Townsend was originally cast as Aragorn.
Oh,
we gotta get you to sit
two.
down and appreciate these films, man.
You know, one of these weeks we'll do Lord of the Rings, and I'll be forced to do it. Outside of that,
Keep your eyes
no.
open.
No. All right, Gary, back to me. Did you know that there is now a new test which scientists have created which serves to find out just how much urine is within a swimming pool? Yes, that's right, Gary.
I saw something about this.
The test works by measuring the concentration of an artificial sweetener that is commonly found in processed food and passes through the body unaltered. After tracking the levels of the sweetener in 2 public pools in Canada over a 3-week period, the scientists calculated that swimmers had released 75 liters of urine. Do you realize how much that is? That's so much urine.
My grandma always says public pool is half water, half tears, and half urine.
That's a lot of halves. My question to you, Gary, is very simple. Have you peed in the pool? I want you to admit it on this podcast right now.
You want me to be is this,
brutally honest?
Is this honesty hour?
You're in the
now?
trust tree. Nothing escapes the trust tree. Have you peed in the pool?
I still pee in the pool.
Oh, still, he said.
I mean, if I have a chance to go beforehand, I probably will. But if I get in and I gotta go, and it's a large body of water,
man.
I'm just gonna let it go, man.
Oh.
I'm like the Big Lebowski, man. You just gotta do what you gotta do.
You know, there's a big difference, though, between the ocean and the pool. The ocean's
nasty.
whiz it by. I mean, there's far much grosser stuff than my urine in that pool, in the ocean.
Pools have filters, though. Pools get filtered. They got chlorine, which is like worse for you than urine, I think.
I don't know. Sometimes some people. No comment. I think it depends on the setting of the pool. If it's, if I'm the first one in that pool, I don't want to disturb the peace and tranquility of the pool.
It's like your first time at someone's house. Do you poop? Do you have to poop?
Oh, I thought you meant the pool. I'm like, who poops in the pool?
Do you poop in that pool?
There's a poop Twinkie floating around. Gary, not again. All right. I'm sure everybody listening is like, thank goodness I skipped the Logan spoilers and I'm listening to Poop Twinkies.
Don't let me come swim at your house, guys.
Yeah, no, Gary, you're no longer invited. All right,
movie trivia time.
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 movies all time that are rated G and feature nudity in them. They're both old movies. One of them is the American epic. It's an American Italian movie called The Bible. It's like a 3-hour Bible epic made in the 60s. And then there's one other G-rated movie all time that features nudity in it. Can you guess what that movie is? I will give you one hint if you would like it.
Well, my question to you is, do animals count? Because I know Bambi has a bunch of naked animals.
It's not animated. Animals do count for this, though.
Ooh.
Because it does center around animals. Sort of.
Oh, okay. So I must
humanoid animals. That's your hint.
So it's
humanoid animals. Old movie, features nudity, and it's rated G.
G has animals. You know what? I think. Ooh. You know what I think it is? And I'm gonna go. I don't know how old you're going, but for me, this is my childhood. So I'm gonna strike out here. Tell me if I'm right. Do I get 3 strikes here?
I'll give you 3.
Okay. What about first one is Spirit, that horse one, where the horse does not talk?
Is that animated?
That is animated.
It's not an animated movie. It's live action.
Oh, strike 1. All right, I'm out on that one.
Think older. Like 30 years.
Ooh, I got this one.
Go.
Extremely sad movie. Old Yeller.
Great guess, but no.
Oh.
Think more fantasy and post-apocalyptic genre with animals.
With animals, post-apocalyptic.
Humanoid animals.
humanoid animals.
That should be a killer hint, at least from my point of view.
All right, and I know this movie. Anybody who's a respected movie trivia fan.
Everybody kind of knows of this movie, But once I give it to you, you're going to go, oh, you're totally right.
How old is the Book of the 11? How old is I Am Legend? Okay,
like 60s. 60s movies.
Oh my goodness. I feel like it's got to be something along the lines of like, it's got to be like you said, like a Bible movie where it's like talking about.
Not a Bible movie. It's kind of like an epic post-apocalyptic sci-fi action. I will give you another hint. Charlton Heston.
You know what? I'm gonna have to strike out with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Great guess. Close but no cigar. It is Planet of the Apes.
Oh yes, of course. Oh, that's funny.
There is human nudity in that movie, and it's rated G. It's the only other movie all time to have that.
Do you think War for the Planet of the Apes is going to have any nudity?
I don't think, but I think that's going to have lots of awesome content.
Actually,
very excited for us to do that movie later this year.
Very excited about that. All right. Gary, anybody who knows you knows that you're a big basketball fan.
Yes.
So any respectable basketball fan loves the legend Michael Jordan.
Not my goat, but...
Ooh.
We will have that debate.
Maybe we'll have a debate another time. Actually, I agree. No. But anyways, this past Saturday, the Duke Blue Devils visited UNC in the biggest rivalry in college basketball. Calling in the big guns, the UNC Tar Heels called in UNC alum Michael Jordan, who was making the announcement that his Jordan brand is set to sponsor the Tar Heels' football team, when he goofed, blurring a few cliches into one awkward phrase. As he was finishing up his speech and ready to hand off the microphone to Tar Heels football coach Larry Fedora, Jordan said, and I quote, "I wish you guys nothing but the best. The ceiling is the roof." The ceiling is the roof.
That's really demoralizing.
What do you think Jordan meant by this?
I think that he was he trying to say that like the kind of like a colloquialism for the sky is the limit?
I think
the ceiling is the roof. Michael, what's going on?
Oh my goodness.
Too much gambling.
The ceiling is the roof.
The ceiling is the roof. We gotta get him on the show because I want to know what his intention.
The ceiling is the roof. Well, do you want an update on this?
Yes.
Jordan has released a new shirt today that says
the ceiling is the roof.
No, it says roof, ceiling, goat, and it has the Jordan brand there.
Oh.
Yeah, it's actually like at least you're making money off of your gap. I can respect that.
I would buy that shirt just to have people be like, what is that?
It's hilarious though. The ceiling is the roof.
I'm gonna start saying that to customers at work.
What's good here? What can I order here that's great?
You know what, Frank? I'll tell you what. Here at Starbucks, the ceiling is the roof.
That's so quotable. I loved it. That's my new favorite.
The ceiling is the roof?
The ceiling is the roof. Gary, go ahead.
Alright, so for number 5, we're actually going to play a little game.
Ooh, excellent!
We call it Word Sneak around here.
Word Sneak!
All credit to Jimmy Fallon. It's a really fun game. So here's how the game works. Philip and I have each written each other 5 words or phrases.
Uh-huh.
We haven't looked at them yet. He and I are going to try to have a conversation while inserting these 5 completely random words or phrases into our conversation.
All right, and we won't know the words.
Yes.
But for those of you listening in the podcast, I will edit these words by saying whatever the word is after before each time.
You will know whichever word comes next.
We won't. Here we go.
Gary's phrase is tickle my nipple.
Philip's word is Benedict Cumberbatch.
So, Gary, I think that LeBron is the GOAT of all time. He's the greatest of all time in basketball.
I agree. He's my GOAT. I mean, I haven't really come out about it yet because people will murder you if you say that, but it stacks up.
Well, I think LeBron is kind of like, if we're going to equate it to movies, right? He's kind of like the Benedict Cumberbatch of basketball. He's a climber in basketball.
You know, Benedict.
Philip's phrase, life is like a box of chocolates.
I'll tell you what, I am a straight man, but if Benedict came up to me, I would do whatever he asked me just to get like a handshake or a picture. Like if he looked at me and he was like, "Gary, tickle my nipple," I'd be like, "Yes, Benedict, I would totally do that."
Yes, Benedict Cumberbatch Cumberbatch is definitely dreamy, and that
Yes.
voice. That how do you get a voice like that? I feel like when he's Smaug, because I know that you love Lord of the Rings, and I've seen his video. I feel like you can only get a deep voice like that by eating like a lot of dairy. Like eating a lot of chocolate, like dark chocolate. Because you know what, Gary, life is like a box of chocolates.
That's what Benedict says.
That's what I think he was quoted as saying that.
Gary's word, baloney.
Philip's phrase, I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Benedict, Forrest Gump, what have you. It's funny that you bring up Forrest Gump because that's actually one of my all-time. I would put that in my top 20. And oh god, sometimes on a rainy day I'll put in Forrest Gump. And the part in Forrest Gump that always gets me is Jenny, because she's on her journey, but she treats him so bad, and sometimes
so bad.
I don't think that their relationship is that believable. I think it's kind of baloney.
Baloney?
I think that their relationship is kind of baloney in that movie.
Yeah, it's really bad. Like, especially, like, it stinks like baloney, Like, I don't really like the stink of baloney. I love the smell of napalm. And in the morning, too. That's what I like.
Gary's word, asparagus.
Philip's phrase, I have the high ground.
Sometimes in the morning, speaking of in the morning.
Yeah, of course.
My grandma loves making, like, big dinners of chicken, potatoes, and sometimes in the morning, if you have eaten asparagus the night before, your urine just smells terrible.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to be, downwind of somebody who just peed after eating asparagus. You want to be up on the mountaintop saying, I have the high ground. You don't want to smell that asparagus.
Yeah.
Because you're above wind.
Gary's word, toenail.
Philip's phrase, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Speaking of wind.
Wind, yes.
That was actually a terrible segue, but if you don't want to have asparagus, but you want to have the high ground, and one thing that's great for getting to the high ground is
maybe a car?
Is a car, or you know what? Sometimes you gotta hike somewhere. You gotta have your hiking boots. I used to be in the Boy Scouts. Did you? I think you did, right? No, were you not in the Boy Scouts?
No, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn about that. No.
Oh my god,
Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts.
But one thing that you need to have for the Boy Scouts in your hiking boots is a really short toenail. Because
really,
otherwise you're not going to get to that high ground because you're going to get a really bad blister on your foot.
Is the toenail to like help with the traction? Is that what that's for?
Well,
Gary's phrase, bamboozle.
If you get longer toenails, you can take off your boots. I know this is kind of going to bamboozle you, but you can go barefoot like a hobbit, or you can trim your
like
toenail,
a Bruce Willis
like
hobbit.
a Bruce Willis midget hobbit from Lord of the Rings.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, I think that's a great Bruce Willis hobbit to end on.
We limped through that.
Oh my goodness!
Beautifully.
That was fantastic. Tickle my nipple. I can't believe you got that right off the bat.
If Benedict asked me to tickle his nipple, I'd be like, all right, man, for how long? Because I'll do however much you want.
Well, especially if he said it like that, like, tickle my nipple. I need you, Gary.
It's so weird. I saw this sketch and they did, why is Benedict Cumberbatch hot? And I can't put my finger on it, but he is so amazing.
It's that voice. I mean, it's
the voice.
It's kind of like Morgan Freeman. Like,
yes.
if he didn't have that voice, I don't think he'd be...
sultry British voice. Oh
yes,
my God.
It's all in the voice.
Yes.
All right. Gary, for my last one, Chance the Rapper, who recently made history with his wins at the Grammy for his streaming-only album, Coloring Book, announced on Monday he will be donating $1 million to Chicago Public Schools, which is facing a budget crisis, according to the Chicago Tribune. Chance is calling the donation a call to action for business and philanthropic leaders. Gary, if I gave you $1 million where to donate to a cause of your choosing, where would you donate that $1 million?
Donate my $1 million. Mm-hmm. Well, I might do something kind of close to my heart. A lot of people who impacted me growing up were teachers and coaches. I played a lot of sports growing up, and I was my parents made sure I was very involved in school. So I know that, you could donate just to a public school, or I might even donate to like inner city basketball leagues, things like the YMCA or National Youth Sports, because those are things that super influenced me growing up.
Okay.
Were coaches. Coaches had shout out to Mr. Kane Wilson.
Mr.
by the way.
Wilson.
Mr. Wilson, I hope you're listening.
Ooh.
You had a great impact on my life, and
Me.
coaches in general have really shaped who I am. How about you?
Mr. Wilson is one of the greatest.
He is an incredible man.
He honestly motivated me to lose a lot of the weight that
Yeah.
I did. So, if I had $1 million, I think that I'm a little bit different in that I would almost. My mother is she's right now at college studying to be a fundraiser. So I kind of have a a vested interest in dipping the toe in charitable donations and such. I think that if I had $1 million to do with as I chose in charitable donations, I think I'd start off with donating to small groups of the homeless. I've always had a heart for that, and I have a real hesitation to go up and give the homeless money because I just don't know where that money's going.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but more so than that, I really have an urge to help them as well as homeless animals. Like, I just feel like a person or thing without a home is just a truly sad thing. So a lot of that would go to small places where I know my money is actually going to be affected. Not to say that the big organizations don't help, but it's just I can see the impact that I'm making. Beyond that, I'd actually probably set up some sort of system where I'd let an announcement go out where anybody who writes to me has a chance to win $10,000 for their cause of their choosing, or $100,000, something like that.
Yeah.
I'd really like to spread that money around to go to as many good places as I could. I think as long as you're well-intentioned in sending out funds to places that really need it, I don't really care if it's an after-school piano program. I don't really care if it's a place for feeding the homeless. I don't really care if it's for adoption at shelters, or I don't care if it goes to vets. Anywhere that can use it for good purposes, and there are good people. Special needs, the special needs spectrum, I think really hits home for me. I'd like to kind of send out like little salvos of good faith and goodwill to as many places as I could affect. So that's not to say Chance the Rapper sending out $1 million to public school systems. They could use it. I know that they're facing a major deficit right now, like $248 million, somewhere around there. So every bit helps, and hopefully we can end on this good note. And
Chance is just riding on an ultralight beam, as they say.
As they say. All right, so Gary, we are. I think we're done with this. We were toying around with the idea of Kong Skull Island being the next one.
Come catch Kong with me this Saturday at 10:45, AMC 14.
All right, careful. As this gets bigger, the fan
People might
section.
start showing
I
up.
know, actually showing up and expecting you to buy them a popcorn or something for $28.50.
$26 at AMC for 2 drinks, 2 popcorns. It is robbery. We need some Bernie Sanders up in here to let you guys know this is some corporate robbery going on.
Tell us how you really feel, Gary.
I will. I can shout about this all day.
Maybe you and me can create a Twitter poll and see if we want to do that or an old movie.
Yes.
Just something.
We're up for classics. We're up for whatever the people want. You got to give the people what they want around here.
Yeah, they drive the show, not us.
Sir.
I always kind of have that belief.
Yes.
So we'll see. Maybe Kong Skull Island. Maybe a classic. Maybe just an older movie. I mean, I saw The Dark Knight this week, and I would have loved to have done something on that. Kind of included it in our segment today. But yeah. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Make sure to download the podcast if you really enjoyed it. Again, shout out to Chris Gell, who gave us a really great new soundtrack here that we're going to hopefully incorporate into the future. And thanks for listening, guys. Until next time.
Peace.
This is Philip Amerine.
Gareth Boucher.
See you later.